Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest. What was that? Is that coming from this? All right. Well, I thought I had the volume turned down on there. Welcome in. When I go live, clearly the notifications are working. My name is Gary Holzman. Today it is the 23rd of May, 2023. There's a lot of 23s in there. And we are live. Today I've got a new mini PC to show you. This one's very different. Some of these mini PCs look the same, and in some cases they're only 10% different on the components from one unit to the other. But I thrive for different looking or different form factor mini PCs, and that's exactly what I have for you today. Welcome in, friends and members and moderators. And yeah, let me see. I want to see where my volume is because I want to turn off. It's my volume. Can you do me a favor and look at this and figure out where that volume is? Because I've got YouTube muted, so I don't have an echo coming out of this, but that thing's got some nice speakers on it. And that's the new tablet I'm using for monitoring the chat room. And that's a big 14 or 15-inch tablet. It's ridiculously huge from Samsung, the the Tab 8 Ultra, I think is what they call it. And so we're still fine-tuning the configuration. Sometimes you just don't find out stuff till you're live, obviously. So today, the reason I was interested in showing off this computer was two reasons. One, it's a new manufacturer. New to me, might be new to you. They're called Morefine. All one word. That was quick. Thank you. Morefine. And the model of this is the M6. Now, if you can't tell from the box, it's super, super tiny. I've already taken it out of the box and did those updates, but I got to talk to you about that when we get to powering this thing on, or I put it all back in the box as best I can remember how it came out. So it looks like I'm doing a fresh unboxing. But I didn't want to have to sit there potentially and wait for ages for Windows updates. This shipped with the latest Windows 11 Pro on it. And again, I want to talk to you about how they configured it because it's, well, you might like it and you might hate what they've done here, but we'll leave that to you to decide. Now, remember, I said I want to show mini PCs that are different. So not only different manufacturers, but also different form factors and different sizes. So this mini PC right here, and I don't know how well you can see or grasp the size of this, but this is my cell phone. Let me just bring it over to the camera here. That's my, that's just a regular S23. That's not a Plus or an Ultra. That's the small one. And that's the Morefine M6, which is obviously thicker and just a smidge bigger than a smartphone. Now, there's the front of the unit with our power button, our top with the fan, and then on the back, a bunch of I/O. Got a USB Type-C, 12-volt input. That's always welcome. Our audio jack. Then a regular Type-C, our Ethernet jack. In the middle is our single HDMI output. And then we have 1, 2, 3 USB 3 ports and then vents on each side. And that's the whole thing right there, okay? So very, very different. Now, when they sent this to me, I thought it was a little overpriced. But since then, the price has gone down, but I think it's a sale. I think the price is going to go back up. Now, at the sale price for what you're getting, I think it's a good deal. However, and as we'll soon discover, this little area right here is the fan. And it can get a little white noisy. And it tends to drone on and on and on. It doesn't seem like it really ramps up and ramps down, or at least when it ramps down, it doesn't ramp down as far as I would like. However, depending on how it's being utilized, that maybe not a problem, or maybe it is a problem. I don't know. So we'll do our best to give you the overview of it. Now on the bottom of it here, and again, I'm going to walk back over to the camera. On the bottom of it, we've got a little removable plate, and that's to access our storage, which you can kind of see through there. And in that top part where the fan is, you can see how there's holes, but what's interesting is depending on how you look at it, the holes disappear at certain angles, which intrigues me. It's like holes, no holes. So depending on how you're looking at it on the desk, you may not even see those holes, or they might just be staring right at you. It's a little off. It's a little off-putting. But if you were wanting something to hook up to a television, like a home theater PC, something for someone in the chat was asking about Plex, it would run Plex fine. This has a bit more power than some of the cheaper, SATA-based, sub $200 low-end PCs, while being smaller with better quality, higher performance parts in it. That being said, it's still in that lower tier, but it doesn't really need to be anything above that to do what it's set out to do. Now, Morefine has a number of other form factors and configurations and processors and RAM and storage possibilities to meet the needs of the user. So this one may not be up your alley, but that's okay. Morefine has others. And we'll look at some others from Morefine in the future. This is what we're looking at today. And I always try to have some consideration for people who have specific needs where they don't want to spend a lot of money on a machine. They don't want a machine that's big. They don't want a machine that's gaudy or has a bunch of RGB. But I also know people like machines that are quiet. I know people like machines that are reasonably upgradable, but they also like machines that are inexpensive. So at some point, as a manufacturer, as a designer, you've got to figure out where your budget constraints are. And then you come up with it's like being a chef. You come up with your menu. You want to figure in your sugar, your carbs, your salt, your cost. And then you put it on the menu and you see how many people order it. It's about all you can do. So let's go ahead and fire it up right now, and let's take a look at how it arrives. I haven't really done anything to it other than run Windows Update on it, and that was, like I said, there were very few missing updates. The latest 22H2 was already on there. Oh, Matt's Olaf joins us, as does Jamie McGregor and Positive Gene and Sarge Tech, Dwayne Blackwelder and Gil Garcia, Bradley Morris, Thomas MacT, William Dawson and Gary Tatum and Nick Powerman. Welcome in, everybody. Danny56. All good to see you, my friends. Luke Greenia. Paul Garrett, welcome in. Let me get in the box here first. I guess I didn't finish unboxing this. Got a little foam insert there. Okay, so in the box, we've got a standard, what appears to be a USB charging adapter. So the cable's permanently put in here. We have a regular length HDMI cable. We have a little bag of screws. We have a VESA plate or a wall mount plate. You can mount this on the back of a monitor or mount it to the side of a wall. And then we have a very small mini PC quick start guide here that looks like that. And other languages. Oh, it's filled with other languages. Okay, so there you go. Now, actually, there's one other thing I want to do before I plug. I'm anxious to plug it in, but I want to do one other thing. And that is I want to show you the Amazon page. And we're going to take a look at how this thing is spec'd out. So let me turn on my window capture. Okay, so here's the thing. This model, and they look exactly alike, all right? There's an 8 gig model, 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage for $169.99. This is the cheapest price it's been in 30 days. It's 23% reduced from its typical price. And then The unit, I think the unit I have here, let's see which one I've got. No. I'm not sure. I think I have the 16 gig 512, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig storage drive, which is $240. All right, so for the difference of, what did I say this was? 170 versus 240 is a $70 price difference. And that $70 is basically paying $35 for the 8 gigs of RAM and $35 to double the capacity of the storage from 256 to 512. Seems reasonable to pay $35 to double the RAM and $35 to double the storage. Now, the RAM is going to be soldered on. So don't buy the 8 gig model thinking you're going to upgrade it. It's too small. You understand? So if you possibly think you're going to want that 16 gig, then definitely get that 16 gig. Oh, I also noticed there's a $15 off coupon. That's bringing that price down even more aggressively now to $225. Okay. Is there a coupon on the other one? No. So even more reason to just get the bigger one. So while you can expand the storage, you cannot expand the RAM. It's going to be, pretty sure that's going to be soldered on. We'll open that up and double check. Let's see what they say. Morefine Micro PC comes with an 11th gen Intel Pentium N6000 CPU, up to 3.3 gigahertz. Windows 11 Pro 64-bit is installed, included. This is the new Pentium version processor compared with other processors like the N5105, 5095, and J4125. The performance of the N6000 is improved by at least 30%. In addition, the N6000 is also more energy efficient. Under the same conditions, the N6000 is obviously a better choice than those processors, those other ones. 16 gigs DDR4, it is DDR4. 512 gig NVMe, not SATA. The Mini PC is pre-installed Windows 11 Pro. Can be used a few seconds after starting up. Okay, so the reason for that I want to talk about. Built-in 8 gigs DDR4 and 256 gig NVMe M.2. Supports storage up to 2 terabytes of M.2 2280. SSD expansion slot not included. I got to figure out what that means. Large memory allows you to download your favorite videos. Okay, yeah, okay. Dual screen display. Well, I guess that's got to be through that USB-Type-C, right? Intel UHD Graphics delivers powerful graphics processing, dual screen, 4K at 60 hertz output through HDMI and Type-C. Okay, there it is. Bringing you a clearer, smoother video experience. In addition, you can also handle different tasks and at the same time improve work. I wouldn't do too much with it. Okay, but yeah, it's for its size, it's amazing, but it's not a desktop replacement. Let's see, small Windows PC is strong wireless. Oh yes, it's got Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2. That's great. It ensures the computer can connect any wireless network, of course. And it's lightweight. Its size is under 6 inches by just over 3 inches and less than, it's basically 3/4 of an inch thick. It's pretty thin. And with the VESA bracket, which I showed you, it can be placed almost anywhere, saving space. Small computers designed with one power button, 3 USB 3 ports, USB 3.1 ports. There's an RJ45 Ethernet port, which is what? Is that 2.5 or 1 gig? We'll find out. HDMI port, Type-C charging port, audio input and output, so that supports a microphone, headphones, or a headset. It supports multi-device connection and can be used with a television, a monitor, a projector, etc. Morefine has always attached importance to the user experience. We provide a 12-month free warranty and 24-hour customer service. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. So that's a nice introduction from the folks over at Morefine. And then there's a little bit of information here onto the sides. And of course, if you're going to buy it from Amazon, you have a 30-day hassle-free return policy. So if it doesn't meet your needs, if it disappoints you, you have peace of mind, just send it back. Just be sure to put everything back in the Mini PC box. Don't leave out the VESA bracket, don't leave out the screws, don't leave out the power adapter, and don't leave out the HDMI cable. Otherwise, that's like theft. So make sure that you return everything you've purchased if you don't like it. And the reason I mention this is a lot of people say, will this do this for me, or will this do that for me? I don't know if it will do it for you the way you want it to, or if it'll blow your mind. Like, is it going to disappoint you, or is it going to amaze you? I don't know you. So at least if you can order it from Amazon and you have that peace of mind, then you have the freedom to just order it, try it, take your time. You've got 30 days. If there's any reason you don't like it, or no reason at all, you just want to send it back, Amazon makes those returns easy. Just make sure you give everything back in the box. So keep it all together after 30 days, then start separating stuff when you know you want to keep it. I think that says a lot about a company and how much they believe in their products, that they participate in that Amazon return program. Let me plug it in here. So there's our power adapter, USB Type-C power adapter. Let's get it fired up. Now, I want to talk about the way Windows is configured on this. It kind of threw me, because when you see me configure a computer for a customer, you see me go through the end user license agreement, set up the username, do a local user account, do all the Windows updates, even optimize Windows, clean up not the registry, clean up the temp files. Well, that's how this arrived. This literally booted right to a desktop. No end user license agreement to sign, no option to create an online account. And if you know somebody and you trust them, that is a wonderful service to offer. However, did they put anything on here that we don't know about? So we could run a malware scan on it, or we could just wipe it and reinstall it just to be safe. But I think they're a reputable company. I appreciate that they did it, to be honest, as long as they did it right. And so far as I can tell, they did. And as far as I know, they're not allowed to do that. The fact that I do it, I get away with it because I'm such a small manufacturer. I don't care. But if you're selling hundreds or thousands of computers and you're providing Windows in that way, Microsoft considers that a violation of their policies. So that's not legal or illegal, that's just policy. And it's one that typically all manufacturers will follow because they don't want to upset Microsoft. These guys are getting away with it, likely because they're under the radar, I would guess. I would imagine they don't know any better. I imagine nobody told them they're not allowed to do that. But as long as it's clean, as long as there's no unwanted adware, I mean, there's no bloatware. This, as far as I could tell, is no different than how I do it. It's almost like somebody watched me and said, oh, we'll do it that way. While it's flattering, when you're at this scale, yeah, you might want to just keep your ducks in a row, just in case. I'm going to plug in our Ethernet here, HDMI here, lots of I/O, nothing on the front, however. So this is really, I mean, I foresee this sitting in a television viewing room or screening room, much more so than the little stick PCs, in the sense that those little stick PCs don't have a lot of power. This is going to have more power, but as a result of that, it's going to have a louder fan. Give and you take, you know. So when this fires up, and the way that you see Windows comes up is pretty much the way I got it. All I did was hit Windows updates, and like I said, almost all the updates within the last, I'd say all the updates within the last 60 days were on there. That's how up to date it was. That's impressive. I would run a malware scan just to be on the safe side, because I don't know this company and I don't expect to find anything. But since it's our introduction, it may be worthwhile to check that out. Jonathan wants to know, what cases do you recommend? I messaged Corsair. They no longer make the 200R cases. Do you know how many times people have told me that over the last 8 years. Corsair no longer makes the 200. I talked to someone at Corsair. They said they don't make the 200R cases. What case do you recommend now that Corsair doesn't make the 200R cases? Corsair has a website, and on the website they have a catalog. And the catalog, like any other catalog, contains all the products that they sell. The catalog doesn't contain products they don't sell. Go to Corsair.com, click on the search, go to 200R. There's the Corsair 200R. So maybe you need to figure out who the heck you're talking to because they don't know what they're talking about. This is the same conversation we've been having for 8 years, and I'm really growing weary of it. Corsair does make the 200R. It is out of stock probably. And let me just show you something real quick. This just drives me up. You struck a nerve with me. Here's Amazon. I'm going to show you how hard this is. All right. And I don't know why people can't do this. 200R is what I'm going to type in. I wonder if anything's going to come up. Oh, look, there's a Corsair 200R that they don't make anymore. Let's go over to Corsair. Let's see the catalog. Let's go to Corsair.com. But keep telling people they don't make it. Just keep spreading that rumor around. It's completely false. Hit this little magnifying glass and we'll type in what? 200R. Oh, that's 4 letters I have to hit on my keyboard. And we see parts right there. What is this? What is this? It says out of stock. It doesn't say they don't make it anymore. Why would they list a product in their catalog they don't make? It's out of stock. So if you're saying, hey, I'm looking for a case today that's available in my area, that's a different question. But don't tell people they don't make this anymore. That's every time people have said that for the last 8 years, they've been wrong, and you just piled on into that little group of people. And I don't know why you did it. But anyway, I do want to answer your questions, but sometimes I don't even know how to respond sometimes. Okay, back to the Morefine. Let's go back to HDMI input, and let's go ahead and turn this on. I'll put myself in the corner here, and we'll get a good idea for how long this takes to boot. Okay, just turned it. Oh, you cannot plug the power adapter into the data port. You've got to plug it into the power port. They're both USB Type-C, but only the one at the far edge is for power, or it ain't going to turn on. All right, I'll hit the power button. It's just a little green light on the front, and then we'll see the video where it says no signal get replaced with the power on self-test. There it is. That's a beautiful, one of the most beautiful BIOS screens I've ever seen. I think that's cool. And as I mentioned, the way Windows 11 Pro 64-bit shows up, the way the desktop is, the icons that are on the desktop, that's how this was out of the box. I did not add any icons to the desktop. I did not add any icons to the system tray. I didn't customize anything. That is exactly how it shows up. That wallpaper, that theme, and those icons out of the box. No end user license agreement to agree to, no option to create an online account. Although you can do that, by the way. You can go into Control Panel and set that up. You don't have to reinstall Windows to do that. But it's weird, right? I think it's weird. Rusty says, I didn't notice a Windows license sticker on the Mini PC. Rusty, they haven't used Windows license stickers on PCs since about 2015. The problem with the Windows license stickers is they got worn out and people couldn't read them anymore, and they were calling support. And then they started putting little doors or little flaps over the stickers. So you'd have this laptop that had a little door on it that went nowhere. And it was just a sticker. And then they started putting them back behind the batteries. But then they started putting the batteries back behind the back cover, so you can no longer change the battery without removing the back cover. So there was no place left to leave a sticker that goes right back to rubbing the sticker off. So through negotiations and discussions, those stickers have been removed and you won't see them anymore. The stickers are no longer a thing. That's the thing about technology, right? Just when you get used to something, just when you think you know it, just when you think you know what to expect. No, it's not like that anymore. And that's not unusual. In fact, it's just you're not keeping up. So I'm here to help you keep up. That's what my job is. I do my best to keep up, and even I'm caught behind all the time. So don't feel bad about it. Not making fun of you or anything like that. Just want you to know there's nothing to be outraged about. You just need to, the times they are a-changing, and they will continue to change. That is the one thing that's always going to be the same. Things are going to always change. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got in this little bad boy here. Let me go full screen over here for me. Okay. So some reason we've got a folder here, whatever that folder is. PC, it's a PC. Oh, it just opens up a, that's weird. It's an odd choice. Let me right click on the computer, go to properties, and what does it say about this computer here? It says Intel Pentium Silver N6000, 1.1 gigahertz. That's its idle speed, I guess. I don't know what it cranks up to. Or is that what it cranks up to? I don't know. Oh, yeah. In fact, we do have the 16 gig model. That's what I thought. Good. 64-bit operating system, Windows 11 Pro, 22H2. Yep. And if we're activated, let's just check that and see. Activation settings. See if Windows is activated. Activation again. Activation setting. Oh, here. See if Windows is activated. Yes, activation is active. And if we want to look in a device manager, we can take a look at what we got in here. Make sure there's no missing devices that are waiting on drivers. That all looks good. Let's see. We've got the security devices. I see the TPM module here. Now we'll start looking for that from now on. The network adapter, what is that? That is an Intel i225, so that should be a 2.5 gig Ethernet adapter, right? Isn't it? 225? Isn't the 2.5 mean 2.5? Pretty sure it does. Let's see if we can control the duplexing, speed and duplex. Let's see what our options are. Yeah, it's a 2.5 gig full duplex. Cool. We've got Wi-Fi 6 using the AX201 Intel with Bluetooth. So everything matches exactly what they've said it would be. And that's why I say when you compare other computers in this price range, you're not going to get those levels of, like you typically get 1 gig Ethernet, you might get Wi-Fi 5, or your drive, maybe a SATA drive, as we've been seeing in a lot of them lately. So let's verify the drive speeds. I've got my utilities disk. We'll pop that back here, and we'll copy over Crystal Disk Mark. And I don't know how well you can hear this. It's with the air conditioning running, it's not that noticeable. But if you're in a completely silent room, you are going to pick this up. Mike Visions contributes 2 pounds. Right on. Thank you, Mike. And Mark Gaines contributes 10 pounds. Thank you to our friend Mark Gaines and Mike Visions, both in the UK. Good evening, Carrie. To adjust the volume on your tablet, swipe up from the center. Oh, you know what? Camera girl took care of it, but thank you, Mark. I think Mark you might be watching behind. Well, he's not going to hear me for 20 minutes if that's the case. Colin Hunt contributes 5 pounds. All my friends in the UK contributing in Super Chat. Colin's also been a member here for 12 months. Holy cow. Thank you, Colin. And Mark Gaines has also been a member for 12 months. You guys rock. All right. So I'm going to go back to the USB drive under PC testing, and we are going to grab Crystal Disk Mark Portable. And let's take a look at what kind of performance numbers we're going to get out of this, whatever this drive is they've got in there. This off to the side so you guys can see it without me getting in the way. So at 2128, we're looking at like, we're either looking at a budget Gen 3 drive or an NVMe slot that's only running at by 2 speeds. One or the other. I think if it was by 2, it'd be around 1800. So I've got a hunch. That's a Gen 3 slot. And we can try swapping that out, and we'll open it up here. We'll get to that coming up, so stick around. We'll get to that fun stuff. Let me just take a look here in the chat and see what everybody's saying while I'm waiting on this test to run. Zvi notices the local username is PC. Well, I guess that's politically correct. Steve Mercure says, actually, that's the primary benefit I get from this channel is learning about changes in the IT world. Yeah, wait till you see the new cooling technology called Jet Air. Google Jet Air, one word. It's a new way of cooling that doesn't involve any fans. And it'll cool about 10 watts, I'd say. So for small mini PCs, what's their name? What's the name of that company? Zotac just introduced a mini PC that has no fan on it. It uses this Jet Air. It's Gordon over at PC World has done a couple of videos on this over the last year, and it's fascinating. And we'll have more on that. Maybe get our hands on one of those Zotac mini PCs, and we can explore how this Jet Air works. But if that continues to evolve, then it could mean the end of regular traditional heat sinks. But regular traditional heat sinks are staving off 125 to 200 watts, not just 10 watts. So for right now, things like phones, tablets, mini PCs, they're going to be the first to market with this stuff. It's pretty exciting. Katrina H says, hi, I made it in to watch another of your broadcasts. Hurrah! Greetings, Carrie, Marlena, and the rest of you. Hello, Katrina. People saying my YouTube is laggy today. It looks good on my side so far, but what are you going to do? Only about 1500 on our write speeds. Now remember, this is no speed demon. If what we're doing is we're streaming Plex or Netflix, any sort of media, that's way more than you need for that. And with a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, that's way more than enough bandwidth. If your Plex media is on like a NAS, it's no problem at all. It won't be a problem. I know there was some concern about decoding and how much power it takes, but with this little guy here, that's really where it shines. Nick Poverman wants to know, do I have a link for the power strip that you have attached to your desk? I don't see it in your Amazon store. I can add that for you. I have two of them. I've got that white one and I've got a black one, and the white one has 4 outlets and 4 USB, and the black one has, I'll just show you. Yeah. Was the desk, you guys can't really see the desk, the counter, but this table I'm working at is like a French kitchen table, and it's white. So I thought the white would match it, but from your perspective, you probably think the black would probably look better. But the black one has the 2 power ports, then a single USB type A is type C, and then another single 110 power. And then this one's got 4 110 powers and 2 USB type A's on the right, 2 USB type A's on the left, and no type C's. But I will add it to the store. Thank you for reminding me. There's our final numbers on the benchmark there. Paul, 1980s, has been a member for 12 months. Happy member birthday, Paul. Right on. Thank you for being a member here for a year now. That's awesome. Dan Nilsson wants to know, could Dyson build a CPU cooler? You think Dyson would have done it first, right? Trevor wants to know the question I've already answered. This is what I don't like about doing these live videos. No, the RAM cannot be upgraded. I would strongly advise go back to the beginning of the video, because instead of getting a short answer, there's a much longer, elaborated answer in the beginning of the video, so that I don't have to keep getting pulled backwards. Again, I do appreciate your questions, but when you just walk in and you have no idea what went on, asking me to repeat myself, well, you can understand why a teacher gets upset when a student is tardy, right? But the DVR mode is on and you can rewind that. But that is really a problem I have with the live videos, because I do want people to ask questions, but I don't want to have to keep repeating myself. So if you have any suggestions on what I can do about that, I'll take all the input I can get, because it's a little frustrating. CPU coolers should blow and not suck, so perhaps Dyson couldn't figure it out. No, these new jet air coolers work by creating a vacuum. And that vacuum has to then have a way to blow the air out, right? It's just the natural force of physics. And yeah, it doesn't blow. It in fact does suck. Or in this case, it draws air in and by default has to push air out in order to keep more air. And the way that it does it is through a very high frequency vibration. And it actually is more effective at cooling, because it can, and I'm going to really make this sound dumb, but it can shake the air molecules loose off the heat sink so they don't stick. It can actually be much more effective in cooling, according to everything I saw. And you can check it out too. I could add some links to it, but that's not a part of this at all. But this would certainly benefit if it had something like that, because if there were a couple of downsides to this off the bat, I'd say that the fan is a little too loud. It's a little too, here I am, you can't ignore me. And the price, but the price has been adjusted now. It's on sale. I don't think it's going to stay on sale, but at the price it is now, I think it's a good value if you need a machine for this purpose. Don't go video editing on this, okay? Don't try and use this for gaming. That's not what this is for. We're not going to run Prime 95 on it. Come on. It's a light duty computer. Gary Tatum says, oh, I called it jet air, and Wintermute said it's air jet. Yeah, well, the old tube U and the old book face, getting old. What do you want? I just learned about it. I just learned about this. So I appreciate the correction. Airjet. Avery wants to know, has Earying made any mini PCs? You could save a lot of money and frustration. Don't know, don't care. If you have to go to AliExpress to buy it, not recommending it. Can the fan profile be changed in the BIOS? Oh, you know what? That's a fair question. I don't know. Let's go have a look at the BIOS and see what's in there. Let's do this. Settings. Advanced. Recovery. Advanced startup. Start now. Then come up with a menu here in just a minute. And there it is. Troubleshoot. Advanced. UEFI firmware settings. There we go. Now we should reboot automatically right into the BIOS. And yes, there's a link we can type in. It's not easy. Type in this much to get this command shortcut. I'm not doing that live on camera. Okay, here's what our BIOS looks like. You know what? Let me get rid of camera 1 so we can get a full view of the BIOS here. You guys don't need to see my face. I got to make it full screen for me so I can see it. Okay. What do we have going on in here? BIOS information, for Lake, 1.1 meg, 4 cores, 4-thread CPU. Is that oh, just date and time. Come over here. Oh, we got a lot of stuff in here, don't we? I do see a TPM area. That's nice to see. After yesterday's video. That was a members only video. So let's see, there's the information on the drive we've got installed. I don't see anything about what generation plug is. Power management. That. Don't need anything in there. Look at debug information. Any good? That doesn't do me any good. Yeah, you want to pretty much leave all this stuff alone. Yeah, I would leave all of this alone as well. Wow, there's some stuff in here. I don't even know what it is. Thermal configuration. Enable all thermal functions. CPU thermal function, I guess you can do stuff here, but that doesn't seem to be anything about the fan. This activates different trip points where the CPU behaves at certain temperatures. So don't care about any of that. None of that is Intel dynamic tuning technology. That's interesting. That suggests it would change it on its own. Configuration, management engine debug, CPU power management. I'm not changing the PL1s or PL2s. That just, you shouldn't on a machine like this, because you're really messing with your power consumption and your heat, which is going to relate to more noise. So what they've done is they have tuned this to be ideal for all people, one size fits all. And that's why it's got such an inexpensive price tag. When you want to do a certain level of customization that's that technical, I would suggest buy a unit that's about $500 or $600 or more expensive, and to be able to expect to have any of these things actually do anything. Because I suspect if we go and change maybe even the PL states, I don't think it's actually going to do anything different. I could be wrong, but I think it's, what I'm trying to tell you is it's a waste of time on a machine this low. So it's already been tuned for you. You're not going to get it tuned any better. But if you think you can and you're wrong, don't be mad at me. That's all just memory stuff there. What else do we have? Security, secure boot. Don't know why password is 2 words and user password is 1 word and administrator password is 1 word, but check password. They capitalized pass and word and then separated them. Very strange. Boot, what do we have? Anything here? Boot priorities. Yeah, I don't see anything regarding fan profile at all. Nothing. So I don't think there's anything we can do with regards to the fan. I think it's just all automatic, one size fits all, as I mentioned. I do think that you guys really need to have a much more reasonable sense of what you're spending and what you're getting in exchange for that money. If you want that high level of customization, it is available at a more expensive model. So, yeah. Quit without saving, and we're going to restart again. Katrina says, I'm enjoying your review with this Morefine M6 Mini PC. You do a wonderful job. I have immense respect for all you do and put up with. Hey, thank you, Katrina. Hey, there's Roy G. Biv in the chat room. What is that? Red, orange, yellow, green? Blue, indigo, and violet. How come green is just G? Why can't it be GB, like Great Britain? T. Ventura says, all you have to do is type shutdown space /R space /FW. What's wrong with that? Is that so hard? By the way, you're welcome. You know what? It's just about habits. You know, for me, I'd have to write that down maybe over to the side so I could look at it. I wouldn't remember that until I've done it a few times. So I just go through the process that everybody at home could easily watch. People like to point at pictures and click on them when you're in my line of work. You just get accustomed to that. But yeah, maybe I'll change my ways. Russ Franzen said he saw fan set to 65 in BIOS. Well, here's the thing. I didn't see that in the BIOS, but I'd have to go back and look. The fan is set in such a way that if we take this fan and we make it any quieter than the default idle, then we're risking running into thermal throttling situations. The manufacturer and the designers of this PC did not set that fan to run at that specific setting because they threw a dart at a wall. Now, if you own one of these and you want to play with it, but it's my understanding the fan isn't adjustable. I don't know where you saw any fan settings in the BIOS. Can you go back and tell me which screen that was on? Because I didn't see it. And I'm very leery to change it, to be honest. Because what does the fan do? If we set it too low, let's say we tell the fan don't turn on until it hits like 85, that means when it turns on, it's going to be really loud. And then and that's even if it obeys, right? Or will it say, no, I'm not doing it. We're already too hot. I'm already going to kick on. We can come back and revisit that a little bit. Let me take my flash drive out of here. Done with that for now. And let me shut the unit down and we'll go back over to shut her down. Gentleman said under CPU thermal config settings, I thought it was asking about the CPU thermals. I didn't see anything about the fan, but you got me curious. Let me turn it back on and I'll just press delete and we'll go back in there. When I do these live videos, I fly through things pretty quickly and quite often there's things I don't see. You have the ability to pause things or your eye might be catching something or interpreting something differently than my eye is. But under thermal configuration, CPU thermal, I don't see the word fan anywhere. Where is the word fan? So I'm confused. Platform. That's a trip point. I don't see the word fan. Temp, energy, temp, fan speed. CPU fan speed is at 65%. Is that what I'm seeing? True. Plus or minus to change option. So the question is, what does that mean? With CPU temp at 72, they want the fan speed at 65. What would you like me to set this to? How about if I just do that? I guess I'm gonna have to prove a point. Okay. Okay. There are 2 fan trip points. Yes, I was looking for speed control curves. That's correct, Gary. Thank you. John mentions there are 2 fan trip points. Yes. Yes, I see these here. But what would you change these to? Would you want if the CPU is at 71C, they want that fan at 100%. You wouldn't? I'm confused. Sarge Tech says, please don't burn up the CPU. Ben wants to know if I got any Nuka-Cola cases left. I just have the original Nuka-Cola build I did for myself with the 8086K limited edition processor in it. It's never been finished. It's, I mean, it's done and it boots, but I never did the cable management on it. Leave it alone if you don't understand what it's configured to do. Well, the only way to know what it's configured to do is to see what the results are. In some cases, when you change these, they don't actually make any impact. That the machine, in my experience, especially with these mini PCs, they're going to kick on to self-protect, regardless of what you set them to. They're not just going to sit there and allow you to burn them up. But I could be wrong. Ant says, changing for the sake of changing, fine as it was. Trevor says, set it to 45. Yeah, I don't think it's going to make any difference, but all it's going to do, I'm going to tell you what this is going to do. All these numbers are related. So if the CPU tip hits 72 and the fan only spins at 45, then it's not going to cool it adequately for this number to go down. That means this number is going to go up. So trip point 1 is going to be at 95 degrees. At 70, at 3/4 of the way up, 75%, and 100% up at active trip point 71C. 71C, it's going to run at 100%. At 55C, it's going to run at 75. Yeah, and at 72, they want it at 65. That makes sense to me. I get this. I think it's dropping too low, but fan speed that EC will use if OS is hung. Wait a minute. Fail-safe temp that EC will use if OS is hung. Oh, so it's going to ignore this. So this won't make any difference. So I don't see an idle speed here adjustment. It looks like this is only if the OS is hung. Sarge Tech says run Prime 95 and then we'll see what happens. Yeah, we could also throw it off a cliff and we'll see how fast it goes. Set your trip point 1 speed lower. Well, but that's the thing. The CPU would have to hit the temperature of 55C. That's pretty warm. So I wouldn't want the fan to run lower than 75. Because again, if we lower that, then likely this temperature is going to continue to climb. So I disagree. I completely disagree. I'll tell you what, you buy one, you set it, and then you tell me what happens. I'm going to put this back. In fact, you know what? I'll just exit without saving. How about that? But nonetheless, fun to go in there and look. Again, I would advise you, if you're that kind of a person, this is not the machine for you. These machines are not designed for people like you. If that's what you want to do, you will be left with nothing but rage and disappointment if you were to buy a machine like this and treat it like it's a high-end, high-performance machine. It's not going to end well for you. Now, if you want to buy one and prove me wrong, I invite you to do that. I don't have a dog in this race. I don't care. But what I do care is that you have your expectations met. And I don't want you to have unrealistic expectations and be mad at me about it. There's too many enthusiasts. If I could take all the enthusiasts out, I'd be happy. At least the enthusiasts that are the stereotypical enthusiasts that do things for no good reason and spend money they don't have to spend and push a machine beyond its design just to see what it can do. It's like cruelty to computers. I'm for people for the ethical treatment of PCs. Anyway, it's just not a way I earn a living, and I just find it to be a complete waste of time. Buy the machine that you need to do what you need to do. And if you need to tweak and play around with all these advanced settings, buy a machine like that. You know, get a machine that has that level of flexibility that you require, because you do not represent the majority of PC buyers. You're a very teeny tiny little fraction. So for the rest of us who want to be able to buy something and plug it in, and you don't have to get into all the technical nitty gritty, that's what my videos are intended to appeal to, those folks. And so if you're not getting that, then these aren't videos for you. You're just never going to like my content. Now, if you want to go in there and you want to poke around, there shouldn't be any way for you to burn up a modern CPU, but there is a way for you to get it so it locks up, and there's a way for you to get it so it runs terribly. And if you want to do that, it's yours. You do with it what you want. If you take it out of the box, and if you use it the way it's intended, you will more than likely have a very reliable and consistent experience over the course of the lifespan of the computer. But the minute you start doing stuff like that, all bets are out the window. So be prepared if that's the decision you want to make. Either way. That's all I'm saying. Been in this business a long time. I can tell you a very common mistake people make. I can tell you how many people have burned up their CPUs back in the day, burned up their graphics cards because they wanted to overclock it. And they did, and it worked. In the meantime, grandma's got a regular video card that she never overclocked, and hers still works, and you just burned up a $900 GPU. Worth it, right? So now you are without a GPU, and now grandma's way faster than your computer because her GPU still works because she left it alone. But, you know, what do I know? Okay, so Danny says the HP Elite Desk G2 is just as good, but it isn't, because that doesn't have Wi-Fi 6 or Bluetooth 5.2, but you can change that. The G2 does not have a TPM, and you cannot change it. It's an i5 6500T processor, and it's a good little machine. But when Windows 10 expires in October 14th of 2025, you can either foolishly and unwisely continue to use it on the internet, and then, you know, we can hear about your theft story when you get your identity stolen. Or you can go to a machine that already has Windows 11 on it, is already ready, and doesn't have that deadline looming, at least not for many, many more years. So at the end of the day, it's up to you what you want to spend. You can buy the HP G2s off lease, used computers. They're not going to be scratch free. You know what I'm saying? They're used. And you can pick them up starting at $100. However, they don't typically have 16 gigs of RAM at that price, nor do they have a 512 gig SSD at that price. That's normally 256 gig SSD, maybe. It might even be a mechanical drive, and 8 gigs of RAM for that $100 price. The minute you upgrade your RAM, your Wi-Fi, and your storage, you are more expensive, or about the same price as the 16 gig 512 version of this, without the warranty and without the Windows 11 compatibility. So these two things are not fair to compare, because unless one is significantly saving you a lot of money, it isn't. I mean, you get something brand new under warranty. So it's effectively the same price with that Windows 11 already installed. You're not going to get Windows 11 already installed. And if you install Windows 11 on it, you have to bypass the security, which means, look, if you're the kind of person that when the arms come down to block the railroad tracks because the train is coming, some of you are the kind of people that drive around those because you think you can beat the train. If that's your mentality, I think you're a moron. But I also believe in Darwinism, and this problem solves itself. And I'm not here to condone that type of behavior. So I'm a big believer in full disclosure and setting expectations. So nothing wrong with an HP G2 off-lease computer for $100 with half the memory and half the storage and nowhere near as fast as the Wi-Fi. But do know that it is not, nor will it ever be Windows 11 compatible. So when Windows 10 expires, October 14th, 2025, the time is ticking because the thieves, every day that you have an unsupported operating system live on the worldwide network, thieves love you. They love you so much. They will shake your hand and give you a kiss on the lips for making their life so easy to steal from you. But hey, don't believe me. Doesn't matter to me. When they steal your stuff, they're not stealing it from me. Some people have to learn the hard way. Some people think they know exactly how thieves work. But here's the thing. Every day, new exploits come out. Every day. And it doesn't mean you have to click on anything. You don't have to have certain antivirus. It's none of that. It's inherent into the operating system. That's why those updates come out every month from Microsoft. It's a cat and mouse game. And Microsoft stops playing that game on October 14th of 2025. So as time ticks on and more exploits are discovered, they will not be patched. And if that's it, you just connect to the internet. That's all it's going to take, potentially, for a hacker to steal everything you've got. So I don't want to freak you out, but this is going to get worse. Let me just put it to you this way. Do you think the internet is safer today than it was last year, or the year before, or the year before, or the year before? So which way is this going? It's only going one way. And if you go out to that battlefield and you don't have a proper defense, you're going to get slaughtered. You might get away with hiding for a while. I just feel bad for you if that's your logic, but you do you. Okay, so could Microsoft make unsupported hardware support in Windows 11 if they wanted to? Well, but here's the problem. If Microsoft were to do that, are they going to say to the thieves, hey, stop evolving your hacking techniques because we don't want to implement this requirement because everybody's getting upset? Nobody wants to put locks on their doors. They're too much of a pain in the butt to have to unlock them. Why can't I just leave my door unlocked? Well, go ahead, see what happens. But couldn't they just say I don't have to lock my doors? Don't lock your doors. Nobody's forcing you to. I think you'd be awfully optimistic to think you could get away with that day after day, night after night, go on vacation, do everything, leave your doors unlocked, and then nothing ever happens. Maybe, but you would be a very rare exception. So the internet is not living in the country. Don't tell me I live in the country. The internet is not living in the country. The internet is living in a massively populated and overcrowded city that is worldwide and anonymous. So there's very little recourse if somebody gets caught stealing. There's almost nothing that gets done for punishment, at least when they're stealing in another country. If there's Russians stealing your stuff here in the US, there's no punishment for non-allied US territories. They love hacking Americans. They love it. They love hacking Europeans. We're all fat and stupid and have too much money. So they want to liberate our money from us because from their perspective, we have more than they do. So it's okay for them to take it from us. We don't deserve it. You're dealing with this mentality and they're getting richer every year because the people that live in denial and corporations that live in denial and only act reactively after they've had a theft. I'm strongly encouraging you to be proactive about it. And it has nothing to do with what you click. It's not about safe browsing, although that's a part of it. It's not the entirety of it. And the way people are getting their data stolen will blow your mind. It is not those traditional click on links type situations. It still is, but there's more than that now. Now it's just you didn't have a patch. Look up, for example, if you want to learn more about this, last year, year before, look up a piece of ransomware called Deadlock and how it works. We're going to try a new connection. It's not pretty. Something just happened to my connection really, really bad. The hackers got me. Yeah, well, I suppose if they're hacking the entire network of the ISP, I hope you can hear me okay. Gary Tatum wants me to rattle some chicken bones over my router. He may not be wrong. I'm gonna try a disconnect and a reconnect one more time. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming back. The stream will go black for a minute, but I'm not ending the stream. There's a difference between stopping the stream and ending. I will be back in. Okay. I have restarted the bridge, which I hope has brought me back. The connection looks okay now. I don't know, somebody might have been using some radio frequency device that was interfering on that same channel, but or maybe something just flaked out. But I think we're back okay. I think. These videos are live, so things like this are part of what comes in that territory. We are a bit spoiled with how reliable things have been working. If it's blurry, that's on your end. That's not on my end. You have to click the gear icon on the YouTube video and select a higher resolution. Anytime you ever see a blurry video, it is always on your end. Always click the gear icon. That should be your first assumption for all of you. And okay, everything looks good. All right, so we can get back to where we were, right? So I want to try a different NVMe drive in this just to see what would happen. So let me grab, what should I put in there? I don't want to put anything too fast in there because it could have heat-related problems. Let me, refresh your browser too if you're still having any other audio or video issues. It should be just a refresh on your side. That should do it. What do I have around, laying around I can use? I have, you know what? Maybe I should just try one of these 4 terabyte drives again. Now these are Gen 4. They're $198 for these drives over at Amazon. The camera girl, I could use some close-up work. If you weren't too busy doing something else. Let me shut this down. Shut down. Okay. And let's go over to camera 1, full screen. Wait. Too many keyboards, too many mice. Not enough time. And we'll go over to close-up camera. Are you ready?
Ready.
Well, come on over. Oh, so now the close-up camera is small. Okay. It's like one thing or the other. Let's go full screen. There we go. Hey. All right. So I'm going to pull power out of here just to be safe. It's always a good plan, whether we think we need to or not. And on the bottom of this unit, we have a little access door here, and I really should get my glasses because I can't see so good. Ooh, that's pretty warm. Now I'm going to need a smaller screwdriver. So I guess we'll go back to this kit that Nick Poverman sent me a couple of years ago, and I really haven't needed it. Now all of a sudden, with all these mini PCs, I'm going to this kit over and over and over again from Harbor Freight Tools. Who would have known when he sent it that I was going to need it so often in the future? He must be a fortune teller. So we're going to take out that little tiny screw. Does it come all the way out? Yes, it does. Super tiny. You do not want to lose that. So I'll set that aside. Oh, that's okay. It almost feels like rubber. It's such a thin piece of plastic. Oh, there's a second M.2 slot. I wasn't expecting that at all. What the heck? What the heck? Okay, well, I guess this little screw right there can be used to put a smaller length drive in, or you can move it up to there to put a full length drive. Are those both NVMe slots? Let's take this drive out of here. Let's put that screw over there. Take this screw out. This driver is a little too small for this job. And we're going to pop in this 4 terabyte Gen 4 drive, which is backwards compatible to Gen 3, but I don't know if that's a SATA port or not. I know one way to find out. Okay, I'll just leave, no, I don't want to leave it upside down because the cooling fan's up here. So I'm going to turn this back on, and when I turn it on, you'll see there's a little light that comes on. Oh, I have to put power back in it, don't I? It needs to have power. I mean, I guess in theory, because it uses that power, you could put this in a backpack with a little portable monitor and take it on the go. Right, with a little battery, like a cell phone charging battery kind of thing. Okay, now let's go to the HDMI input. All right, you can shut that camera off. Thank you. And let's see if it sees the other drive. I think I've already formatted that drive. If I kept all the boxes in the same order, let's see if we have a D drive. No, we don't. So now that may be because it isn't the drive I've already taken out of the box. So let's go to disk management. See if it offers us an opportunity to format a drive. No, it does not. So it absolutely does not see this other NVMe drive. Now, is that because it's SATA, or is that because it's 4 terabytes? And so the mystery ensues. I'll go ahead and shut this back down because there's really no other information I need from here. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch the drive places. I'm going to reverse. Camera girl, I need you again. And hold on a second, guys. I'll have a camera up here. You know what? I'll put camera 1 up for right now. Pull the power plug here. Camera? Yes, please. What I want to do is I want to switch the location of drive 1 and drive 2. I'm going to put drive 2 where drive 1 is. I don't need to finish that sentence, do I? You ready? Ready. Okay, we're ready. Okay. And I think I'll wear my glasses this time so I can see. I want to do this for 2 reasons. Because if this drive appears over here, then we know that's NVMe, right? And we might be having a size limitation problem. On the other hand, if this drive does not appear over there, then that may be SATA only. I don't know why, but I want to keep the screws back in their original holes, even though it probably is using the same screw. Should be using the same screw. Sometimes my OCD gets the better of me. Okay, now I'll plug it back in. And we'll turn it back on. And then we'll go back over to the HDMI input. Okay, you're clear. Thank you. See what happens this time. Booting from something. I just don't know which one. Is it me or does this look like a different desktop layout? Full screen. Which drive are we on? That shows the 4 terabyte drive. So that suggests the other M.2 slot is going to be SATA only, I guess, because that's our 4 terabyte drive right there. Now, is that 4 terabyte drive in Gen 3 or Gen 4? Is it by 4 or by 2? Let's find that out right now. We'll just do the top 2 numbers. The read and write sequentials are all I'm interested in. So 3477, that means it's Gen 3. That is a Gen 3 NVMe slot. But there is no 2 terabyte limitation. So if you get a Gen 3 or even a Gen 4 or 4 terabyte drive, as I've demonstrated, you can upgrade this unit if you want to host your Plex server locally on this machine. 4 terabytes, that's a lot of storage. I just don't know if you'd have any heat-related problems at the higher speed numbers. And even that number is a bit low. This NVMe drive can go much faster than that. I can't help but wonder if that's a heat-related reduction or if the write speed is just inherent to the chipset. I'm going to run this test one more time just to make sure. If the numbers are the same left and right, then it's not heat-related because it wouldn't be that consistent. If it started getting hot, then our read numbers would also be down in the 2000s because I'm not giving it any time to cool off. Yeah. Okay, so we are having a heat-related issue here. Now, there's not a whole lot of room for a heat sink on here, and this is a bit of an overkill of a drive, and it was my concern. But you can see the effects of heat, and then, of course, the hotter the drive is getting, without giving it a rest, without giving it some idle time, then you're going to see that write speed. It's just going to spiral downwards as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. So that confirms we have a heat issue without even having to look it up, right? Just common sense. But the good news is it's possible if you can figure out a cooling solution for that. So one of the benefits of putting a lower performance drive in here, of course, is that you don't have to worry about the heat situation. So, you know, food for thought. Whoops, I think I just kicked this back on by mistake. When I picked it up, I think I hit the power button. Let me switch back over. Oh, no, I didn't. It's just that Windows updates are underway. Okay, well, I guess that makes sense. Now it's shut off. Okay, so now I'll pull the power cable and I'm going to put everything back the way it was. But nonetheless, an interesting experiment. I'm sure the 8 terabyte drive would work in here, but it would just get too hot. I can tell you right now, it's going to get hot almost immediately. I can feel the heat coming off of this. It's not happy. Let that cool off over there. I'm going to put this drive back. So I suppose the only other question remaining is verifying whether or not there's SATA involved here. No, you do not move this little standoff. You don't move that. That is for a shorter drive. For some reason, they intend for you to have a shorter drive there. But that little standoff sits far lower, so the bottom of your SSD shouldn't touch it, even if it did, wouldn't hurt anything. That doesn't move. There's no edges. That's perfectly round. If you try and remove that, you'll break it off. So you either lay a drive over it. That's what the other hole is for, right? Because the hole we're using to secure this is way up here at the top. It's not over here. So that's for a full 80 millimeter 2280. But for some reason, you know what? Did we have that same brass standoff underneath this one? No, it's just a position for a SATA drive. That's all it is. Why? I don't know why. Makes no sense. I should have a SATA drive over here. I could verify my theory. Somewhere on this part shelf, there should be a SATA. Where are you? SATA drive? That's not SATA. Ah, this says SATA right on it. Yes. Okay, here we go. I have a 512 gig SATA M.2. So let's pop that bad boy in here. See if it gets recognized. I suspect it's going to get recognized. Say, hey, I know you. Hey. Here we go. Plug that in. Turn that on. And we're going to go over to the HDMI input, which in just a moment should give us the post. There it is. Danny says, put the 8 terabyte NVMe SSD in and try it. I can already tell you it's going to work, and it's going to get hot, and then it's going to slow down. I don't see any point in that. Remember, this is a sub $200 computer, and it's just, it wouldn't make sense for somebody to put a $900 drive in a $200 computer. So, you know, if you want to just step back and take a big swift kick in my nuts, that's like what you just asked me to do. Now, I'm not going to do it. So now let's take a look and see if there is the other drive. Do we have a C and a D? No, we still don't. Well, wait a minute. Is that because I didn't partition and format the other drive? Let's just take a look. Let's just take a look real quick. Yes, there it is. It's right there. So I have to partition it and then format it with a new simple volume. There it is. And now we have a C drive and a D drive. So that's exactly what that is. That is SATA only. The mystery has been solved. All right. Made some progress today despite some barriers to entry with our internet connection being a little finicky today. C. Ventura says the manual says M.2 NVMe 2280 plus M.2 SATA 2242. Clearly, it doesn't have to be a 2242. That's what I'm trying to point out. This is why I don't trust manuals. Does it also say that there's a 2 terabyte limit? Because the manual probably says that too, and the manual will be wrong. So they might intend for you to put a 2242 in there, but you can put a full-length 2280, but that is SATA. So when you're using these manuals, if you're believing in them, God bless you. I don't believe it until I experience it, or unless there's other indications on the board that would lead me to the conclusion. The written word today, and especially as we're getting more and more entertainment from people finding entertainment from misleading others, and people that aren't necessarily qualified to write documentation, writing documentation. We're living in a time where I am most comfortable checking all this myself. And this is exactly why. Because if you read that manual, you would think you couldn't put a 2280 drive in there. And you probably wouldn't even have tried an NVMe. You would have taken their word that it's SATA. And in this case, they're right. But in other cases, they're not. So which one's which unless we try it ourselves? So that's just the way I take a look at things, because I need to get things done. And I'm not going to have somebody tell me, don't bother, it can't be done. I've never believed anybody who ever told me that. Can this Morefine be used as a Plex server 4K to my network devices? It should. It should. However, the only way you're really going to know for sure based on your network and the types of files you transfer would be for you to buy it and see. Because, for example, if your bit rate on your files is massive, if you've got, Blu-ray rips or something that are 65 gigs that you're trying to transfer over your 1 gig network, even though this has a 2.5 gig port and you're not set up for 2.5 gig, you're probably going to blame this. On the other hand, you could have 4K files that aren't much bigger. Let me rephrase. 4K files are always going to be bigger than 1080 files, but if they're encoded in X265 or something like that, could potentially be smaller than 1080 in some cases. And that puts more work on the processor to do the decoding. So I don't know what kind of files you've got, what bitrate you've got, what encoding you've got, or what speed of network you've got. So if you're curious, get the decked out one with the 16 gigs of RAM. The RAM is soldered on. Buy it from Amazon. You have 30 days in which to evaluate it and return it if you don't like it, and then come back and you tell me, did it work as a Plex server for you? Not everybody uses a Plex server the same way, different types of files. Some people are really into anime, that's nothing. Some people are really into high concept sci-fi, and that can be very, very bandwidth consuming. Some people are in the Blu-ray rips, and some people are watching movies from the 1930s, which are obviously, you can't, if you want to watch Rebel Without a Cause in 4K, I wish you the best of luck, because it was never made in 4K, but don't let me stop you. So anyway, it should work, but at the end of the day, because of so many variables and how people use their machines differently, you're going to have to tell me. But at least when you buy from Amazon, it's risk-free. So you have 30 days to make that evaluation. And then I'd love to hear back if you decide to do that, how it worked out for you. But yes, it should be fine for most people. Okay. Going to be a politician, not answering questions, answering your question, but not answering your question. Yes, it should, but it might not. What is the max RAM on this mini PC? It's soldered on. So whatever you buy it with is the max it comes with. If you buy the 8 gig model, then the 8 gig model is all the RAM it can have. If you buy the 16 gig model, then the 16 gigs is all you can. I've said this 4 times, guys, 4 times. Carrie, is it okay to connect the inlet and exhaust fans in the same chassis fan header of the motherboard, or is it better to connect them into a fan controller? How many fans are we talking about? 2? 4? 12? How much power are you going to be drawing from that individual fan header? I would not power more than 2 fans off of 1 header. Rodney says, thanks for the answer. I'll buy it and try it. Do please let us know what your results are, good or bad, either way, and why. It'll help others out from your experience. Martin says, soldered RAM like Apple. Soldered RAM is really going to be more and more common because RAM is getting to be so cheap. We are getting to a stage where we can just slap 32 or 64 gigs of RAM on for much less money than having to get the socket and the module. That RAM is more reliable. And once you hit that maximum, you can't upgrade it anyway. So like for most systems, 128 gigs is a max, but for systems like this, 64 gigs is the max because you can only get 32 gig modules. There's no module bigger than that on DDR4. So if you can just solder in 64 gigs on the board, you couldn't upgrade it anyway. And you've made your RAM far more reliable and faster because it's no longer going through the socket. Soldered RAM is faster and more reliable. It is not this budgetary thing you think it is. However, when you are getting a machine with a minimal amount of RAM that's soldered in, such as 8 gigs, then that's because the rest of the machine wouldn't benefit from having much more than that to begin with. So, like if there's something you're not, if the processor can only process so much at a given time, then piling on how much you want it to process doesn't change how much it can process. It's still the limitation or the bottleneck. So making it top heavy on RAM, it's like a seesaw. You're flipping it and you're unbalancing it. And all this stuff up here isn't touching the ground and it never will. You just wasted your money. Manufacturers, if you want to look at it from a negative way and say, oh, it's bad, Well, you could just as easily look at it from a positive way and say it's cost savings. The RAM is faster and more reliable being soldered directly onto the board. And on budget machines like this, it wouldn't benefit you to have any more than 16 gigs. I can promise you, if we put 32 gigs of RAM in this, it will not run any faster or any better. You're still going to run into the exact same bottlenecks at the CPU level and at the chipset level, and you can throw all the RAM in it you want. It will not change that. So in a way, the manufacturer is doing you a favor by not allowing you to spend money you don't need to spend for parts that will have no impact on the machine. Now, if you want that level of control, then you need to spend more money for a system that, number one, has a more powerful chipset and CPU that can handle more data bandwidth faster and has the sockets that cost money to buy the sockets so that you can change those RAM modules out. So you don't get to buy the cheap thing and then throw $1,000 into it. It doesn't work like that. You buy the expensive thing and you can put $1,000 worth of accessories on it. It doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever to buy the cheapest possible computer for a specific task, and then it's sort of like you bought a boat, and now you want to decorate your boat with gold and platinum so heavy that it sinks to the ocean floor, and it costs you 10 times more for that gold and platinum than the boat cost, and all you did was damage your boat and waste your money. So you can choose to see soldered on RAM as a bad thing, or you can choose to see it as a good thing. And that choice is entirely up to each of you. And none of you are wrong and none of you are right. It's just how you want to look at it. You want to look at it from the left, or do you want to look at it from the right? You're still looking at the same thing. You're just looking at it from different angles. But the thing that you're looking at is still the same. The human mind, man, I'll tell you what, it's fascinating how it can see what it wants to see and not see what it doesn't want to see, and then convince itself only what it sees exists. It just drives me crazy. Norman says hello from Bermuda. Right on. Hey, Norman. Tim Teal says hello, Carrie Chat and Camera Girl. Al Grubb says hello. There's our friend Kelly Stewart, and there's our friend Bob R. joining us, and Captain Blinsky, William Dawson. 2H2K says the only thing I worry about is e-waste. If you can't fix it or upgrade it, it's just landfill. Well, yes and no. I love the idea of things being biodegradable and recyclable. And to some extent, there is e-waste recycling programs, but this is so tiny, there's not a whole lot going on here. It's not like Keurig coffee cup things that are being used by the millions by people every single day. That's going to have an impact on the landfill. They're not making enough of these, first of all. Number two, the same has been true. There's not a whole lot of Model Ts on the road. They used a lot more materials than this, and they made millions of them. Where are they? They're in a landfill, they're rotting, they've returned to the earth, or they're in the process of returning to the earth. We have all these plastics ending up in our oceans. But my channel is not an environmental one, and I'm not here to promote Greenpeace, but I am here to promote common sense. And well, I encourage being thoughtful of the environment. We're still buying garbage bags. I go to the store, I take my hard-earned money, and I buy garbage bags. And they put the garbage bags in a sack. And I come home and I take the sack and I put it in the garbage bag. And the whole reason I buy the garbage bags is to throw them away. That's the only reason I buy them. And the box the garbage bags comes in, once I use the last garbage bag, the box goes in the garbage bag. But all the garbage bags are going to the landfill. The minute I bought the box of garbage bags at the grocery store, I was buying something whose sole purpose for existence is to go into the landfill. And I think that's a bigger problem than this little tiny box. And I think it's a bigger problem than a million of these little tiny boxes. Because how many garbage bags made of plastic are going into our landfills or into our oceans? Why can't I just put my garbage and my rubbish in the bin? Oh, that's not sanitary. So I have to buy garbage. City requires me to buy garbage bags, or I can be cited if I don't. It is a public health concern. So you raise a point, but again, what about everything else, right? We're looking at this one thing, really narrow-minded one thing, but in the meantime, if you just turn your head and look around, it's everywhere, and by comparison, that's nothing. John says, I need an anti-slip mat for my desk. Oh, no, I would hate that. No, 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 no. If I had an anti-slip mat, I'd throw it in the trash. It would end up as waste in the landfill. I do not like anti-slip mats. Let's see. Other countries use a lot of our e-waste for school and work, but if you can't upgrade it, they need to ditch it. Yeah, well, somehow human beings find a way to work things out. That's been the case of when I grew up, they told us oil would be we'd be out of oil. We will have drilled all the oil out of the earth by the time I was 40. That was a long time ago when I was 40. And we've got more than enough oil. There's more and more oil. So I'm not saying it's an infinite resource, but there's way more of it than they ever thought. So the whole Chicken Little, the sky is falling, is ridiculous. Taking reasonable steps to reducing our carbon footprint is always a good thing, but not to the point where we should have to sacrifice either money we don't have or the quality of our life, which is very short by comparison to the rest of the universe. Our life is a fraction of a second in the life of the universe. We're gone in a blip. So if we can do things to make ourselves more comfortable without causing harm to others, I think that's reasonable. But if it's excessive one way or the other, then I don't think it's reasonable anymore. But that's just my personal perspective. Bob R. contributes $10. He says, I enjoy the content so much. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thank you again for being a member and your super chat contribution. It's good to see you here, as always. Dom Long says, someday they will mine landfills. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I think we're throwing away very precious items that we don't realize their value, but generations ahead of us will think we were crazy. It won't be wrong. SM9 wants to know, Carrie, out of curiosity, have you or would you review Raspberry Pis as suitable cheap PC replacements? Those are hobby boxes. So Raspberry Pis, if you wanted to make a little project box, a gadget, a trinket, if you wanted to make your own water sprinkler timer, if you're a hobbyist with a soldering iron in the old school Heathkit days, you like building your own electronics projects, that's what Raspberry Pi is for. You're not going to be running Windows on a Raspberry Pi. You're just not going to do it. It's going to be a miserable experience. It's not what it's for. There are hobbyist and Raspberry Pi channels, which I encourage. Quite frankly, it's a wonderful way, especially for people just starting out, to learn how electronics works and programming works at a very small and inexpensive entry-level scale. Me personally, no customer has ever asked me to fix anything Raspberry Pi. I think many viewers are so brainwashed from YouTube enthusiasts that you fail to understand that I'm a professional in an industry sharing my industry experience with you. And I don't ever, and I'm not aware of any Raspberry Pi industry outside of the hobbyist community or very vertical specialized things like boats and alarm systems, you know what I mean, where the Raspberry Pi can be a solution or an alternative to another offering of a closed system that's for a specific purpose, right? Like an alarm comes to mind, engine monitoring. I see Raspberry Pis being used for things on engines like boats, to monitor different systems on the boat, and to do it in a way that they can build it themselves, because the stuff for boats is really expensive. So if you can cut the price. If they sold you a light bulb for $1, that light bulb would be $8 if it was for a boat. They just price everything up higher. So in industries like that, where there's a markup for these little specialty devices, the Raspberry Pi can be a wonderful alternative for people that have that technical knowledge, but that's not what I do. Nobody's ever paid me to do that. Nobody's ever even asked me to build them anything for a Raspberry Pi. Nobody's ever asked me to fix anything that was a Raspberry Pi. And therefore, I would not have a business, which means I would not have written the books, hosted the radio show, or had this YouTube channel if not for my business. And so this is an extension of my growth of being in business, and to share with you what you're not going to get. Well, there are some other businesses here on YouTube, but they're few and far between. It's so off balance. So I'm here to represent working in the PC industry as a professional. There's enough hobbyists, they don't need any more. All the Raspberry Pi videos you could possibly imagine, there's at least 10 times more than that here on YouTube already. I don't need to pile on it. I'm not interested for those reasons. But that's why you'll never see that or Linux or any of that stuff here. It's just not how I run my business, or I wouldn't have a business to run, and then I wouldn't have a YouTube channel to have. So that's why it's not. I'm not throwing any shade. It just doesn't make any financial business sense. Gary Tatum says, I used to build Heath kits all the time. Yeah, I had a few Heath kits in the 1970s. Little, designed for kids. Nothing too impressive. I think I built my own radio. Have I missed any other contribution? Oh, you know what? I don't know. Have I? Was that a hint? Let me take a look. Yes, I have. David G contributes £5. Thank you, David G. I don't see anything else. Paul 1980s has now been a member for 12 months. Congratulations, Paul. Thank you for being a member for 12 months. That is awesome. You rock. Jason Urbank says, I use a Raspberry Pi for a printer server. There you go. I think it's Gen 2. These days, Raspberry Pis are in short supply. But print servers used to be pricey, but nowadays they're built into most printers. So I don't even know why you'd need that anymore, unless you have a very old printer. David G says, no problem, Carrie. It's been a while since I've tuned in. Well, where you been? We've been waiting for you. Glad you're here. Dom Long says, I would like to see Carrie Holzman build a home PC in an arcade case. Well, Dom, I'd like to see a customer call me and order that, and I can give them a price, and they can put a down payment down, and then that could happen. I'm not exactly sure where the keyboard and mouse are going to go, but once again, I'm running a business, and I deal with the kind of problems everybody has. Every business and every home user at some point needs to call a tech, with some exceptions. But this represents the majority of computer owners, not the fringes that are enthusiasts and hobbyists. And my goal is to help two things. One, if you're thinking about becoming a computer tech, get the ideas of overclocking and liquid cooling and RGB out of your head, because you're not going to be doing that in corporate America or even for most home users. So if that's what you think you're going to be doing, you're going to not like your job. On the other hand, if you do enjoy problem solving and helping people, it's a very rewarding job, and you can earn a decent living and have a wonderful career and sleep well at night if you have a conscience. And the other reason I do this is so that you don't have to hire somebody like me. If you feel like this stuff is kind of complicated, I'm here to show you it's really not that complicated. And if you really wanted to, you could do it yourself. And I love to empower people. So that's why this channel exists. It's here not for the hobbyists and not for the enthusiasts, because there's almost every tech channel is a hobbyist or enthusiast channel. The ones that show real work being done, where a customer is paying for the work and the person doing the work is held accountable and is earning their living from the work they're doing on camera, not from YouTube, but from the work on the camera. Those channels are few and far between. They're out there, but there's few of them compared to the others. So I'm just here to offset that. It's not an insult to those who do the enthusiast work. It's just off balance. Where's the voices for the people in the world doing the work? And also, is it fair to viewers who don't realize the difference and think that's what being a computer technician is going to be and decide that's what they want to do for a living? And it's completely going to blindside them when they find out that the work they're going to be doing is nothing like what they're watching on these enthusiast channels. People aren't paying others to do that kind of stuff. So want people to avoid having that negative experience and to set their expectations properly, because I want people to succeed at whatever it is they choose to do. But the best way you're going to succeed is to be prepared. David D says, I've got the bell icon ticked, but it still doesn't let me know when you're streaming. Okay, so the bell icon has a couple options. One is to get some notifications or all notifications. Then at the very top corner is your avatar or your YouTube account. You need to go into the settings and under notification, tell it how you want to be notified. Third, depending on how you're choosing to be notified, for example, if you're using the YouTube app on the phone, you need to give the app permission to send notifications. So you can tell YouTube to send the notifications, but if you've got the app disabled, the notifications part disabled, and like on Android, there's 3 different possible notifications. There's the home screen notification, there's the, I don't know, there's 2 other notifications that pop up. And the same with Apple. And those notifications are disabled by default. So when you install the YouTube app, whether it's on a tablet or a phone, you have to go into the settings of your phone, then look at the settings of all the apps that are installed, find the YouTube app and go to the settings of the YouTube app. Set it the way you want it. And once you do all this, all your notifications should work. My notifications have never not worked. So when people are not getting working notifications, as far as I can tell, they have missed a step in how they want to receive the notifications, depending on what device you're using. Some people don't have a phone, they don't have a tablet, all they're using is a PC, and maybe they don't have a Gmail account. So their email may be filtering it or may not be checking it often enough. So in that case, if you don't have a phone, you're not using an app, you are using a PC, you definitely want a Gmail account if those notifications are important, and make sure you enable your Gmail notifications so you know when you're alerted to a new notification coming from YouTube. You can also download and install the YouTube app on your PC, and you can use that to send you the notifications. So there's lots of different ways. In fact, if you do a search at Google on how to enable notifications, pay attention to the instructions that come from Google. You can also search here on YouTube, but some of the content goes back 10 years and none of those steps exist anymore. But if you want to look for videos on notifications on YouTube, here on YouTube, pay attention to the date. And if anything is older than 2022, it doesn't apply. Preferably, you want the freshest information possible. So by going to a Google search and a Google website result, that is the current update. And the list is pretty significant for, how you want to be notified. And what device? Is it an app? Is it a tablet? Is it a smart device? Is it a TV? Is it a computer? Is it an Apple? Is it a Windows? So it's not like I can just tell you, click the bell icon. That assumes that all your settings in YouTube are correct as well. Because I want you to get those notifications. I just don't have an easy way to tell you how. They didn't make it easy, and they keep changing it. So we're just about at 2 hours on this system, on this video, doing this review. And I will say that a machine like this has its benefit. It has its value in wanting something small and out of the way. It's not going to be used for gaming. For the most part, if you had an elderly parent or grandparent that just wanted to get on the web and browse the web and do those typical sort of very mild little things, this is going to do that fine at a price point. You know what I mean? Where you don't have to spend a lot of money. They're not overwhelmed by a big electronic box. Some people are like, oh, this is a big electronic box and it scares me. It's a little friendly, little tiny box, not much bigger than a smartphone. It's got one button on it, so the whole intimidation factor of buttons and lights goes away. So for those people, ideal choice. If you want a home theater PC, I think that's really where this is designed to be used. Perhaps in a small office, but I think the fan noise might upset you. And even in a home theater situation, the fan noise could upset you. Maybe. Everybody's different about that. So you're going to have to decide that on your own. And if you do decide to purchase one, I would love hearing back from your thoughts, what you thought. Or if there's any part of the review you wished I would have said now that you've got one and you've, because it gives me things to consider looking at in future reviews if I've got viewers, particularly more than one, but, more than one viewer, but viewers that are interested in, does it have this or does it have that? Or do you think it's loud? Because as soon as you say you think it's loud, there'll be another viewer that says it isn't. So do know that's coming. But nonetheless, your opinion is valid and your environment is unique and your ears are unique. Your sensitivity is unique. If I were using this as a home theater PC, I'd have the volume up anyway for the thing I'm watching or viewing. I wouldn't hear the fan. But if I were just sitting in the theater room with this thing running and there's no other sound, including not my air conditioner, just if the room, then you would hear this fan and it would drive, if that's the only noise I heard in the room, it would drive me up the wall. But as a home theater PC, I'd be drowning out the sound anyway. So I like volume. If I'm watching a movie, I want to feel like I'm in a movie theater. If I'm watching a TV show, I want to hear what people are saying, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you have proper expectations. Now, with regards to support for Morefine and things like that, everything sounds good. This is my first introduction with the company, and I'm happy to meet them. I'm glad that they've sent the machine for review. I thank them for that, and I hope to see more from them. And I would love to hear back from you guys if you order any of the things I show and have experience you want to share with me, good or bad or indifferent. Please leave it in the comments below. Thank you to Bob R., David G., Paul 1980s, and Mark Gaines, and Mike Visions, and Colin Hunt. Of course, a regular shout out to our friend Peter Laycock and John Jack Wilson. And Camera Girl, thank you for your camera work, Camera Girl. And thank you to you guys for hanging out with me today. And thanks to Morefine. I should have another machine from Morefine arriving very soon. I also have an ASUS Mini PC that I've purchased, because if you want that kind of support you're probably accustomed to with American-based sellers, you are going to pay more for it. But if that means it's worth it to you to pay the extra, is there any other benefit besides having that peace of mind of the familiar manufacturer's name? We'll find out coming up this week. Also, I have a build coming up on Friday. I hope. Amazon has delayed the motherboard. I hope the motherboard arrives today or tomorrow. If it does, then I can prep the motherboard on Thursday so I can go right to the build on Friday. So things are still in flux for the rest of the week. I have a number of videos to make, but it's all based on my own personal triage system. What needs me right now? And with the machine I built the other day, that 13500 blew my mind. Amazon's got that 13500 Core i5, which is a 20-thread processor that cranks to 4.8 gigahertz for $209 on sale. Newegg wants $247. In fact, Amazon wanted $247 for it until last week. I don't know how many they got left at that price, but it's a bargain. It includes a heatsink that is adequate. It works just fine. The chip never overheated, not even on Prime 95, with the stock heatsink, and it actually looks pretty good too. So, even if you're not putting it in a Z790, you could put it in, a 700 series board for 150, 160 bucks, even with DDR4 if you want to. I will tell you that the machine that we built that 13500 in with DDR5 and the Gen 5 SSD, I ran a test last night to take one of my downloaded live videos at 1080 that's 3 hours and 10 minutes long. And I rendered it out on my 8th gen laptop using Cyberlink Power Director, producing a MP, what is it? It's an MP4 video. It's an H.264 at a 38,500 bit rate at 3840 by 3840 by 2160 resolution, so 4K, 30 frames per second. And the laptop kept crashing, and I found out there was an NVIDIA driver, because that Dell XPS laptop has an NVIDIA 1050 Ti mobile chip in it. And you used to be required to get all your drivers from Dell. If you tried to download the driver from NVIDIA, they'd let you download the driver, but during the install, they'd say, you have to get your driver from the manufacturer. We don't support it. So I always would get my driver from there, but Dell said there was no NVIDIA driver, but my NVIDIA logo in the system tray showed a little exclamation point that there was a new driver. And my Cyberlink was crashing during the rendering, and I thought, well, I'm going to try this again. And it's been a couple of years since I tried it. Again, just getting my updates directly from Dell using Dell Update. So I download this 700 or 800 meg driver from NVIDIA. I go to install it, and it installed. That's never happened before. Then I ran Cyberlink Power Director, and it worked without crashing. It worked exactly like it used to. Now, that ends up with a file that's around 38 gigs in size, and it took 3 hours and 30 minutes, I think. It took longer to render the file than the file time was. So then I did the same thing on this PC over here. And it seems like Cyberlink's not even using my graphics card. I just hear the fans ramp up on the CPU side of things. And it did the exact same settings and encoding and everything, the same file. It did it in 1 hour and 30 minutes. So then I did the same exact thing, Cyberlink Power Director, same file, same settings, same encoding, using the 13500 that we just built with the DDR5 and the Gen 5 SSD with no no discrete graphics. Just using the built-in integrated graphics on the Intel chip. 55 minutes. 55 minutes. No discrete graphics card needed. And I've looked all over Cyberlink Power Director, and I can't tell. How do I know which of my GPUs? Like my laptop has the Intel GPU and the NVIDIA GPU. This computer has an Intel GPU and the NVIDIA GPU. And it's supposed to just select them automatically, but I never heard the GPU fan spin up at all. All I was hearing was the CPU fan crank up. So now, is the difference because of the more modern CPU, or is it because of the faster NVMe drive, or is it because of the DDR5 instead of DDR4? Testing must continue. I must know. And this is unique only for video editing in Cyberlink Power Director, because how other video editors will respond to different hardware is based on how they're encoded and how they're developed by the programmers. So I still think there should be some optimization to take advantage of the CUDA cores here. So the reason why I put it in there, I don't see it. Like, it just has an auto optimization. So I'll have to do a little search on that, figure it out. So I feel like that should have gone faster than 1 hour and a half. But that is a 9th gen in there. And the CPU, but also that's an i9. CPU we put in is an i5 13th gen, 13500. Hour and a half, 55 minutes. Which one do you think I'm liking right now? I mean, that system was slapped together on a whim because I just wanted to test the Gen 5 drive out. That's the fastest computer I've got in the house. I think it's only an i5. It's a $209 chip with the heatsink and fan included. Slap in some DDR5. That ASRock board is doing great. And just forget the Gen 5. Don't even worry about that. Just throw a Gen 4, put one of these in there, or if you want a higher performing drive, look at the SK Hynix P41, one of the highest performing Gen 4 drives you can buy. And tell me that's not the fastest computer you've ever seen in your life. And that's just an i5, so you don't have to worry about cooling, you don't have to worry about noise. It's just amazing. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I will see you all very, very soon. And links for everything are in the video notes below the video, and I will add the links as requested for these power strips that clamp onto a desk. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.